Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Nick. I hope that you are doing excellent tonight, or today whenever you're watching this. I got requested to make this video a while back by a lot of you, and I have been putting it off because I've been very nervous to make this video, although I shouldn't, because I am a barista. I do this for a living. I want to make a video talking to you guys about coffee and about talking about what it's like being a barista and all of that. I have a journal here with your questions that I guys got from your community tab, and also just some topics I want to talk about. So let's just get into it. This could be soft-spoken, pretty quick. Enjoy. If you enjoy the video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, do all that fun jazz, comment what your favorite part of this video is, also like why you love coffee. But let's get into it. I'm already rambling. I'm not even rambling about the thing I want to ramble about, but coffee. So I think first I'm going to go through the coffee questions that I got from you guys, and then I will kind of fill in the gaps. So what is my favorite coffee? That was kind of your guys' thing. So I've been doing coffee since most of you know I work in entertainment. I'm a film scout for TV and movies. I've been doing coffee since I was in school at NYU, and I wanted to find kind of a job where I could, act or do anything creative and also have kind of like a side gig. So that's when I became a barista. I worked at a coffee shop in Soho, which is like the really bougie area of New York City. It was a French place called Maman, which is actually still around. It was Oprah's favorite chocolate chip cookie, but basically it was like this French bakery. There's a lot of drama with that job. I ended up being fired. That is a whole other story maybe I could talk about in another ramble. Let me know if that interests you. It was my fault, I swear. We had like a food inspector come and we weren't up to code, and then I was trying to be nice to everyone and it kind of, I think, backfired a little bit. But what I'm trying to say is that I've been doing coffee for like 2 years, and then I've been doing coffee for almost a year here, so almost like 3 years as a barista. And my favorite coffee would have to be a mocha. I love chocolate, and I love sweet things. I'm not really into just bitter coffee. I don't drink black coffee. I like to douse it in milk and some sugar and honey and make it a very sweet drink. The sweeter the better, and because of that, I love mochas. Whenever I do my screenwriting and everything, I treat myself to a mocha at a cafe, and I chug it as I write my next screenplay. It's like a hot chocolate. If you don't know what mocha is, it's a hot chocolate with espresso. So think of like your favorite hot chocolate with caffeine. Because it's a little bitter, I usually tend to recommend putting in more sugar. For instance, where I work, they use dark chocolate in their mocha, which honestly I think is tastes so bad. So what I do is I do that type of mocha, and then I add vanilla. If you have a mocha and it's like too bitter for you, just ask for simple syrup from the baristas. They usually will have one on tap behind the bar, or they will have one available to you. Every single coffee shop should have simple sugar or simple syrup. If you don't know what a simple syrup is a sugar syrup. So think of like, the packets of sugar that you have. It is literally that in liquid form. It is delicious. It is usually made by the shop itself, so we make it. I have some recipes in this book that I'm going to be talking about because some of you wanted recipes for like chais, and then I have like a golden milk. And did I take it from the recipe book from my coffee shop? Yes, I did, but shh, that's between you and I. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, simple sugar is literally just equal parts sugar and equal parts hot water. And then you stir it up, and then voila. So if you have a really bitter drink like a mocha or, an espresso or anything, make sure that you throw that in. It saves the drink. You should want to be, my thing, to figure out if you like a drink or not, you should want to finish the drink. If you notice that you don't finish the drink, and it's not because, you're too caffeinated or you're too full, maybe that drink isn't for you. I want to make you a drink that you want to slurp down and you want to ask for a second. That's my favorite type of drinks. let me know what your favorite drinks are down below. But so for my favorite coffee, it would definitely have to be a mocha. So good. And at our coffee shop, there's kind of different ways you make mochas and hot chocolates. We have a powder you can use, or you can use like a syrup, which you melt the chocolate. It's like melted chocolate with hot water. I like the powder. It's like it's just powder, and then you put hot water in it. It's like that's how you make hot chocolate, right? And then you just add espresso. So that's my favorite coffee. Number 2, someone asked, and I'm gonna get into this, but someone's next question was, how do you make an Italian macchiato? And this brings me into my next topic, which I guess I want to talk to you about, is drinks. So I'm just kind of gonna guess that you're a newbie here, and if you're not, like, you'll still learn stuff. But let's talk about drinks. Going to a coffee shop can be like so overwhelming, because you look at the menu and you're like, damn, I know I have, like, maybe you know what a filter coffee is. If you don't, a filter coffee is a coffee that you would brew at home. Like, think of a pot. That's what filter coffee is. A filter coffee is named filter coffee because it's made through a filter. That's how that's done. I'm just gonna talk about all the coffees so that you can be informed, and I'll go back to these questions. But filter coffee, we make it in my store basically every 2 hours, and we have this big jug that we bring into the back. So if you go to a coffee shop, you're going to notice that there's an espresso machine bar, right? That's usually pretty performative. Like, we go to the bar and we will make the drinks in front of you. That's kind of what you get when you go to a boutique place, which is where I'm at. So when I say boutique coffee shop, I'm talking about a place that's not Starbucks, it's not like Coffee Bean, it's not a chain, but you go and they have their own roasted beans or special beans. So you're gonna see the espresso machine. If you look around, if you actually look in the back, you're gonna see a big pot. Or if you ask for a filter coffee, you're gonna see that as well, where you're gonna see this big pot and we'll be pouring out of it. How we make that is we have a grinder. So if you look around the shop, like next time you're at a coffee shop, look, there's a big grinder, and we put beans in it, we grind it, and then we take that, for me, we take that to the back of the room. We take that into a back room, which you don't see. We put that in, we have this big like machine, and it has a little cup, and you take a sheet of filter, you put it in, and then you sprinkle you dust the coffee in it, you put it in, and then you press go, and it's for 6 minutes. Hot water seeps through it. And this method is there's your grinds of coffee, and then hot water just steams through it, into a big pot. That's what filter coffee is. We do that every 2 hours so that you get a fresh batch. Okay. Then there's this thing. Oh, I'm going to talk to you about this. There's this thing called a pour over. A pour over. I don't know if you've heard of it, but like Blue Bottle does pour overs, and a lot of different places do pour overs. Pour overs are the death of us. I swear. I'm going to get into tips on things that you shouldn't do as like a customer, but please, for the love of God, don't order a pour over unless there's this one thing, unless you know, for instance, that you're going to do this one thing. And the one thing is to not add milk to your coffee. So let's talk about what a pour over is. So we have filter coffee. Think of that's like a batch brew. So we brew that for like anyone coming in for a quick coffee. They're like, hey, can I get your house coffee, black coffee? Yes. That is okay to put with milk, because we make that as a batch brew, and ours, it's especially being it is on rotation. But yeah, that's the type of coffee, that you want to put milk and cream and customize yourself, right? Think of a house coffee. A pour over takes manual labor. It is so annoying. Oh my God, I hate doing it. You're gonna take so someone says a pour over. When my response is, okay, it's gonna take around 6 or 7 minutes. What a pour over does is 2 things. People usually do a pour over because they think that it's hotter coffee, fresher. I want to debunk that for you. The way we make a pour over and a filter coffee is it's the same exact method. The only thing that's different about pour over than a filter is that a person has to do it by hand. So the reason you would get a pour over coffee is not because it's fresh. Okay, so next time you go to a coffee shop and you're like, I want a hot coffee, let me get a pour over. Please don't do that. It's just so annoying. The reason we get a pour over is this. For instance, you go in and we're a specialty coffee place, so our beans change from time to time. We go and you will ask, what's on filter today? And we'll be like, oh, we have a Guatemala, that's a medium roast, that has notes of cherry and watermelon and all of this, and I'll show you the bag. And I can talk about how those beans are made and everything, but what you're gonna do, so say I present that to you, and then you could be like, oh, what's on pour over? And then I can show you, pour over is gonna have a different type of bean. You might do a pour over because you don't like what's on the filter coffee, and instead you're like, oh, I like what's on the pour over, so let me do that instead. That makes sense. Now the reason you don't freaking add milk is because it takes 6 minutes. So what I do is, I'll just walk you through. I will grind this little special beans. I then have this portafilter, or it's not portafilter, but I forget what it's called, but it's a you would see it. It's like a pot, and then you can put a filter, and it's a single brew. And I grab this hot water, and it basically go up and down, and I mimic what the filter brew does, just for a single cup. And I'm doing that, and stirring it and extracting the bean flavor through the water, and then that's how you get your pour over. If you add milk to that, which people have done, and it's the most pet peeve thing of mine, there's a few other things, please just don't do that. The reason you get a pour over a filter, just so you know, is because you want to taste the coffee, you want to taste the notes, you want to taste the bitterness or the sweetness of the roasted coffee that you are selected for a pour over. It's more for a specialty experience. If you really want to taste coffee, yeah, get a pour over. We make it fresh for you, but do not put milk or sugar in it. Please don't. It's just kind of disrespectful to the barista, just because we take 6 and 7 minutes to make it, and then you just toss milk in. Now, I don't fully care. I'm like, for you, if you're my customer, I'm like, whatever you want to do it. There's no wrong. And that's the one big thing I want you to take away from this video is, like, you can do any of this. You don't have to listen to me. I'm just giving you the insight of someone from behind the counter, and I want to make you a little bit more informed, so that when you're dealing with a barista, you know what you're talking about, and they will kind of. We're not like snobby. Like me, I will explain everything to my customers. I'm not explaining everything to you, but when someone really knows their coffee, it kind of adds more of a seriousness to the coffee and more respect to the making of the coffee for you. Yeah. So that's what a pour over is in a filter coffee. Now let's get into our other coffee sizes. So let's talk about it. So we have, I'm just gonna name them off. Let me look here. Okay. So where did I put you? Okay. So we have an espresso, we have a macchiato, we have a cortado, we have a cappuccino, and a latte. Let's talk into it, shall we? So an espresso, it's just an espresso. An espresso shot is 2 ounces, and it's layered. I'm going to talk about it in a sec. Do I talk about that now? No, we'll talk in a sec. I'm going to talk to you later about like what a good espresso is and how you can taste it, and like how you as a person, as you as a human, can learn how to respect and enjoy coffee flavors. If you want to just do that, do an espresso. So an espresso and a filter are different in the fact that the beans. Okay, so an espresso is a finer grind than a filter. So a filter is a coarser grind. This means a couple things. So coarser means that more water is going to seep through, and you want that for a filter because you have a lot more coffee and you want the water to fully seep through. An espresso is basically like a shot. So it's very like condensed, not a lot of water, but a lot of flavor and caffeine. I'm gonna write that down too. Caffeine. So I'll talk about which ones have most caffeine in a second. But just so you know, filter and espresso have nearly identical caffeination levels. Filter has actually, I think, a little bit more. That's the most you can get. Above that, you can get a cold brew. I'm just gonna ramble. But a cold brew, just so you know, is the reason it's the most caffeinated is because when you have beans, when we heat the beans and you let the flavor come through and it all drop, you lose caffeine through the process. The heating process unlocks the caffeine, but also can like diminish it a little bit. Cold brew is a longer process because you brew it through cold water. But because it's cold, it actually retains more caffeine, and that's why cold brew is caffeinated. Cold brew, though, it takes 18 hours. 18 hours to do. And we do that every day. We will, at noon, the noon person will grind some beans, put them in some bags. Some bags that like seep through. You get a huge jug of water, put them in, and then you put water in to the bean bags. You stir them up until they're all wet, and then you just leave them in the tub for 18 hours. It's going to diffuse into the water, and then the morning person of the next day is going to take the bags out, dump them, and then put the cold brew into the fridge. And that's what cold brew is. Which is very, very fun. But going back to like drinks and stuff, so an espresso is the compact version of beans and coffee. You know what espresso is. So that's what espresso is. And then up from that, you have what's called a macchiato. A macchiato is espresso with just a dollop of foam or a dollop of milk. The trick for these names, they sound so different, right? It's really simple math. I'm going to go in the order. It's just a ratio of milk to the espresso. The espresso stays the same throughout every single drink. Okay, it's a 2-ounce shot of espresso, and then the amount of milk is going to go up. So let's talk about it. Espresso is no milk. A macchiato is a dollop of foam of milk, barely any milk. Above that is a cortado. A cortado is equal parts espresso and milk. So think 2 ounces of espresso, 2 ounces of milk. Above that is a cappuccino, which is 2 ounces of espresso and 6 ounces of milk. So it's a little bit more milk than a cortado. And then a latte is 2 ounces of espresso and 10 ounces of milk, steamed milk. All of them are steamed milk. Now, I want to talk about something. I'll say that first, but for the drinks, that's how you can, talk about the drinks. It's really more of like how much dairy you want, to be honest. So, next time you're in a coffee shop, don't be afraid by the word cortado and macchiato. Just know that they're the level of milk. So just remember, latte has the most milk, espresso has the least, macchiato has the second least, cortado has the third, and then it's cappuccino, and then latte. Espresso, macchiato, cortado, cappuccino, and latte. Now I kind of want to talk about something about profiling. So what most people don't know, and this is why people can love coffee, or you might just not know anything about it, but like the taste of the bean coincides with the dairy product. This is why I always recommend, I get if you're lactose intolerant, but if you're not lactose intolerant, always get your coffee with dairy. Get it with milk. This is a tip. Milk is meant to enrich the flavor of the espresso. When you add oat or almond or even non-fat, that's to your liking, but you're not going to get the rich profiles of the espresso. You're not going to get what's intended from the drink. You can still get the flavors, but it's going to be hinted with that oat flavor, that almond. It's supposed to go with dairy. That's how it's supposed to go for the lattes. And if you really want the rich espresso, we have an Americano. So you might be like, yo, what's an Americano? An Americano is literally just an espresso shot with hot water. So think of it as a filter coffee, but with an espresso shot instead of like the filter drained. Just so you know, like when we're out of filter, I just say, hey, I'm gonna make you an Americano. Is that cool? They can be kind of interchangeable, to be honest. So yeah. Okay. so let's move on. I'm just checking that this is still recording. I apologize. I'm really excited to get a new camera soon. Okay, so let's talk. Just want to make sure this. Okay, so those are the drinks, and let's get back to the question. So how do you make an Italian macchiato? An Italian macchiato, I think this is it. It could be an espresso with just a dollop of foam. So next time you do it, just get an espresso and a dollop of foam. The way you make foam, oh my god, I'm so excited. We're going to talk about steamed milk and how to make a latte art. You will basically steam milk, and you'll just know this, when you steam milk, the foam, there's going to be foam at the top and then the liquid at the bottom. And the longer that you leave it after doing it, it's going to separate. So what I used to do, we don't do this in my coffee shop now, instead we just kind of like pour whatever milk. But I used to grab a spoon and dollop the foam and chuck it onto the espresso, and that's an Italian macchiato. Very, very good. Okay, so let's go to number 3. What kind of teas are your favorite to brew? So we also make teas. Teas, in my opinion, are kind of boring. Basically, all that you do is you get tea leaves and then you steep them in hot water for a certain amount of time, and then that's it. We have 4 teas at my coffee shop. I'll talk about the caffeination in a sec. We have black tea, we have green tea, we have Earl Grey, and we have a red rubus. Caffeination levels go like this. It goes black tea, then it goes, I think, Earl Grey and then green, or it might go green and Earl Grey, and then red is decaf. So as for coffee, just always remember, black is the highly caffeinated one, and red is an herbal. If you're new to teas, just ask the barista, hey, do you have any herbal teas on hand? Or hey, do you have a red tea on hand? That's an indication to know for the barista that it's going to be decaf. Okay? Next question is anything, I love this question, it said anything matcha related. So let's talk about matcha. I don't know if you know what matcha is, but matcha is a funny thing. Your boy kind of knows what matcha is, but I'm just going to tell you what I do as a barista with matcha. I've done matcha drinks 2 different ways from 2 different jobs. I'm going to tell you which one's my favorite and like how I think you should drink it versus how most of us drink it. But matcha is a green tea. It's a green tea. That's actually pretty popular in Asia and China. I might be making this all up, but that's what I believe. It's very high in antioxidants. It's very healthy for you, very great. It kind of has this earthy taste and flavor to it. A lot of people like it, some people don't. If you've never tried matcha, give it a go. It's weird, I love dairy, I don't like non-dairy milks, but I've noticed that almond milk looks really, really good. Or not looks good, tastes really, really good with it. So next time you want to try matcha, give it with dairy milk, but also try it with almond. But let's talk about what it is. So it's this powder. Matcha comes in this powder, and there's multiple grades. We have grade A, which is like A, B, C, D. We have grade A, which is I think the highest grade in matcha there could be. And what we do to make matcha, at my coffee shop, we make it into a syrup. You will take it. Actually, did I write this down? What we do is you take a couple scoops, you put water in it, you stir it up, and then you will drain that into a tub of brown sugar. So what happens with matcha that gets a little messy is that it will start to clump. And so you stir it, and then you have to get a chinoise. I don't know how you pronounce that. Someone help me in the comments, but it's like a filter. And you pour the matcha through that, so that any clumps don't come through, and then you just get the pure matcha. And then we mix it with a brown sugar. And we mix it, and then that turns it into a syrup, because it's with hot water, matcha, and brown sugar. And then we use that syrup to make a matcha drink. And a matcha drink, how we would do it is we have the syrup, we pour 2 ounces of it. That's cool. I look really cool doing it because it's in these bottles, and I can pour. You usually use a measuring thing, but I just go up and down like the bartenders do. That's how cool I am, because I know, or I think I know, like how long it takes to go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's the thing. ice drinks and hot drinks actually have different amounts of level of matcha. Now, take this with a grain of salt. This might just be my coffee shop, but ice drinks actually hold. We put more matcha in it than a hot drink. A hot drink we put an ounce. In ice drink we put 2 ounces. I do not know why. I think it's because ice drinks are bigger. Ice drinks usually come in ours at 16 ounces versus our largest hot drink is 12 ounce. I don't know, but we will put the matcha in, and then you will either put steamed milk on it or you'll put it with regular milk. Here's my hot take. Matcha is not good as a syrup. The best matcha, this is how you can indicate if like the coffee shop is gonna have good matcha, is if they do it in front of you. I used to work at the French place. The matcha we used to do is we'd get the powder, and what you would do is we'd have this little bowl, and we'd have this little what the F is it, like a little scratchy thing, like it had little what's the word? It had little like claws in it. You've seen it. You've seen it. But basically what you would do is you put the matcha in, and then you put hot water and you would stir it to get all the clumps out. And then you would add water, and then they would make your matcha drink. So they would make it by order, and it wouldn't be a syrup. It would be just fresh out of the bag. And that's really nice because it doesn't lose any of like the freshness of it, I don't think. I think that's why it's brought to us in a powder, because when you put it in a syrup, it kind of locks it in, and I don't know if it's as beneficial. It just doesn't taste as fresh. So I don't think the syrup is that good, in my own opinion. So if people do a syrup matcha, you know, give it a go. But what's difficult with that is like you can't control the sweetness of it. So if I had a choice, I would do a matcha that they make in front of you with a powder, and they put hot water and they stir it and they declump it and then they make it for you. That's a really good indication the matchas could be really good, in my opinion. My boss would literally shoot me because I shouldn't be saying that, but that's my little secret to you, is like, if for good matcha, you'll know because the place will they'll do it in front of you. But yeah, that's how you make matcha. If you've never tried matcha, give it a go. Try it with almond milk. It's really good, but regular milk's really good too. You're either gonna love it or hate it, but know it's kind of healthy for you. Okay, next question is any variations on mochas? So, and I'm gonna tell you what my favorite coffee is. I know I just said it's a mocha, but I'm gonna tell you what Nick makes right now that I'm like freaking in love with. Because, you know, when you work at a coffee shop for so long, you kind of make your own variations of your own drinks. So let's talk about mochas, any variations of mochas. And basically the question was like, for those that don't like regular coffee, like what would I recommend for you? And I think we're very similar. I very like sweet things, but let me give you some really great options. So my favorite mocha alternative is this. This is what I do. I'm going to test you right now. I make a mocha cappuccino with vanilla. So what does that mean? That means that I make a mocha with just like less milk than a latte, and I add vanilla in it. But at my place, I do it with the hot chocolate instead of like the hot chocolate powder instead of our mocha syrup. So I love that. I would recommend adding vanilla. That's so good. And yeah, other things is like, ask when you go to a coffee shop, ask what syrups they have on hand. We have a really nice Cubano, which is a cinnamon sugar syrup that is amazing. I also, don't be afraid to ask, and this is something I love as a barista. People come up and they go, what's your favorite? And I go, oh, I love the Cubano. They say, I'm getting that. Do that. The baristas, they know it's good. We know it's good. We're told to tell you that everything's good. So like my thing, just so you know, this is a tip, just so you're aware, is like, if you were at a coffee shop and you're like, oh my god, which one's better, this pastry or that pastry? I will tell you, I think, what I usually like, but I usually will tell you, I guess I would tell you what I really think, but I also I would definitely be like, I used to care, I don't care anymore, but I used to be like, oh, the one with like the more pastries. But usually what I say now is like, someone's like, oh, I love the cookie, oh my god, that looks good, and I go, both are amazing, you can't go wrong. but I have an opinion, but I don't share it. When you ask a barista, hey, what's your favorite drink? Can I have that? They're going to indicate to you what is a really good drink. For instance, some of us really like the lavender lattes we have right now. I love the Cubano. We're going to steer you in a good direction. So if you don't know what if you want a good variation, just ask the barista, hey, can I get a drink what's your favorite drink that's like kind of sweet? They'll give you some. I'd be like, oh, a Cubano is really good. We have a really good sparkling tea if you don't want coffee. And then you could decide, right? So don't be afraid to ask. Also, please never feel like you can't ask the barista these questions too. If you forget like the milk difference between a macchiato and a cappuccino and all that, don't worry about it. Most baristas love talking about coffee. That's why we do coffee. But also we know like we all know it's kind of pretentious. So like we're cool sharing that information with you. So don't worry about it. But yeah, I would definitely say mocha's really good. Matcha's more earthy, I would recommend. You could say hot chocolate with espresso. At our place we have a sparkling tea, which is really good, which I know how to make, I can tell you. But it's basically a tea with simple syrup, and we put it over, so we make like a tea simple syrup mixture, and then we put that syrup over sparkling water, so it's like basically like a sparkling iced tea. So good, I love it. And I guess I'll share that right now, because the next question is like, what's a good recipe for chai? And I have the recipe right here. I have it from the coffee shop, so I'm just gonna tell you what it is that we do. Because the cool thing about coffee is that we make all of this in the back. So when you go to a boutique coffee shop, they make the syrups in the back of the house. We do. So I make every single syrup you see. I make the vanilla, I make the matcha, I make the Cubano, I make the lavender, I make the sparkling tea. And I know how to make all of that. So I can inform you right now how to make all of those syrups if you want to make them at home for your own coffee. Let me know which one interests you, and I can always look it up back at my coffee place, but let me know. But I'm going to give you kind of a hint for some of them. So, sparkling tea, because that's my favorite drink. I drink that all the time, besides the mocha. I do that mocha vanilla cap, and then I also do the sparkling tea because it's sweet. It's not as heavy or dense as a coffee, and it's still very caffeinated. This is what the recipe is. The recipe is 10-ounce tea. So what you'll do is, it's fluid ounce, so think of like a cup. It's gonna be 10 ounces of tea petals. You steep that in 24 ounces of water, and then you let that steep. I think it's like 6 minutes. To be honest, I never really like care about the steeping time, but it's like, as long as it's like 6 minutes, except for lavender, it takes like 20 minutes, which is absurd. I don't know why, but lavender just takes forever to steep. But normal teas, it's gonna be 10 ounce. You're gonna steep that in 24 ounces of hot water, and then you're gonna do 24 ounces of sugar. So it's equal parts water and sugar. Just remember that. So it doesn't have to be 24 ounces for you, but just remember, if you ever want to make a syrup, it's always equal amounts of sugar and equal amounts of water. If you want to make a larger batch, equal amounts of sugar, equal amounts of water. And then you add, I don't know the ratio, what is it? I guess it's basically a 2-to-1 ratio, so how do you do this? 1 out of 5, I don't know, 10 ounces of tea, 24 ounces of hot water, 24 ounces of sugar. You mix all that. Obviously, when you make the tea, you're gonna strain the petals from the tea, and you're gonna let the water come through to make the tea, and then you're gonna join that in with the sugar, which is gonna be very good. And then you let it cool. So you make it, and then make sure you let it cool in the fridge. And then now you have a syrup, and you put that over sparkling water. So good. Now let's get into the question about the chai. Okay, so a good recipe for a chai is this. We do 20 ounces of brown sugar. So we put in like a, think of like a little, what the F is it called? Oh my god, I'm losing my mind. It's like a little container. You're gonna put 20 ounces of brown sugar, and then how much ever sugar you do, you're also gonna do the same amount for chai. Chai, if you don't know, is a tea. It's just a tea. You're going to take 20 ounces of chai. Tea leaves, still fluid ounce, because that's going to change in a sec. In a different recipe, but not in this one. Fluid ounce, like a cup. You're going to do 20 ounces of chai, and you're going to steep that in 4 quarts of water for 12 minutes. So 20 ounces of chai leaves into 4 quarts of water for 12 minutes. You're going to let that steep, and then you're going to strain that into a container that's holding 20 ounces of brown sugar. That's for a really big thing, but hopefully you can get the ratio. So just so you know, brown sugar and chai are going to be the same, and then you're just going to steep how much chai and how much water you want to do, basically, for 12 minutes. And then you're going to mix it around and let it cool. And then that is a chai sugar syrup that's really good. We do the same thing for matchas, where we pour it into a cup and then we pour it with hot milk, and you do that. For chais, just so you know, we do, the ratio is like 60 to 40. So we'll do 60 parts of the cup is chai liquid, and then the 40% is going to be milk. So it's like a 60-40 ratio, just so you know, for when you make your own chai. But that's pretty good. Some people don't like, this is the problem with making syrups. It's like some people don't like chai with sugar, but what can you do? We also do a vanilla syrup, which is so good. That is 24 ounces of sugar, 24 ounces of hot water. Remember, equal parts for the syrup. And then you do 2 tablespoons of vanilla bourbon extract, and that's it. We also do this thing called a golden milk, which I'll get into in a sec, which is basically a turmeric tea. I wrote it down because I thought it was really interesting. Listen to all the ingredients in this. But this is the recipe where it's actually by weight. It's not by fluid ounce, but that's because it's in grams, not ounces, and I just realized that. But you're going to do oat milk. We do 128 ounces of oat milk. This is for a really big jug, and you add 6 grams of cardamom, 6 grams of cinnamon, 27 grams of turmeric, 1.5 grams of black pepper, 1.75 grams of agave, and then you stir all that up. You put it in a nut bag, and you let it strain through, so it all like the black, like the black pepper and all that doesn't seep through, and then you have golden milk. Really good. If you have any questions on recipes, or you want to know a specific recipe, make sure you join our Discord, or you also hit me up on Instagram. You can DM me, and I will send you the recipe that you crave. Because I know I'm going quick, but yeah, there's just so much coffee knowledge. Okay, so the next question was French press ratio. What's the best French press ratio? To be honest, I didn't even know what a French press was until like this video. It's very cool. It's basically this mechanism where so usually, like, a filter, we have the beans and you let the water steep through. French press is this little device, and you put the ground beans in, and then you put water, and then you let that steep. So you let the beans stay in the water. And then what you do is, I think if I'm not wrong, at the end, you push this thing down. So it pushes all the beans to the bottom, like, and compacts it. And then it protects it. So then you have all this liquid at the top, and then you pour that out, and that is your French press. It's supposed to be really good for holding flavor, for holding the oils in the beans, or more smoother taste versus filter coffee. That's what it said online, at least. The best ratio that I found is going to be a 1 to 12 ounce ratio. This is for a 32 ounce batch of coffee. So you can do the thing. You can also look this up online, but this is for coffee to water. So 1 ounce of coffee for every 12 ounce of water. Okay, it's supposed to be very good. But I want to keep going. I love talking about this, and I just want to make sure I get everything down. Obviously, if you have any other questions, let me know. But I want to also talk about espresso, and then I want to kind of talk more about my job and how us as baristas work. I always think that's pretty fascinating, but I want to talk to you now about how to enjoy espresso. Sorry, that was like the longest tangent before we got back to this topic, but espresso. How do you enjoy it? And how do you know if it's a good shot of espresso? So an espresso is actually made up of 3 layers of coffee. It's made up of the heart, which is the bottom layer. It's like this thick chocolate substance. It's very gooey, very thick type of consistency. It's called a heart. It's very deep brown. Then you have the middle of the shot, which is called the body, and then you have the top, which is called the crema, which is where you get the latte, not the latte art, but you know, like that really beautiful lighter layer at the top of espresso. That's a crema. Let's talk about what each layer does to the espresso, so you can figure out, like, you can learn why you need every single one, and then I'm going to tell you the difference between how to order espressos. The heart, the bottom part of an espresso, is deep brown, and that is where the espresso gets its highest acidity flavor. So that's where you get the acidity. And then I was like, how do you describe acidity? It's like tart. I guess that's bitter, but let's keep going. So heart is where you get the acidity, body is where you get the complex acids and flavor profiles. So when you see on the bag, like, you're like, or beans, when they're like, oh, strawberry or watermelon flavor and all that stuff, that's in the body, and that takes up the majority of the shot. The heart is only for around, I think, like a few seconds, and then the body is around for another like 10 seconds or 20 before you do the crema, which is actually the bitterest part of the shot. All three are supposed to blend and create a good profile. Now, just so you know, all espresso usually tastes pretty bitter, in my opinion. So don't let that throw you off. How you're going to know if an espresso is a good shot is the aftertaste of an espresso. It's going to sound weird, but what you want a good espresso to do is you want to take it in, and then you want it to kind of round out your mouth. You want it to go around your tongue, around your cheeks, and you don't need to like swish it or anything. You're going to sip it and just see how it feels. A really good espresso is going to like kind of go underneath your tongue. It's going to kind of tingle all over your mouth a little bit. That's how I describe it. And you should get hints, like at the end of it, you should get hints of strawberry or cherry or all that stuff. To be honest, I don't always get those hints, but if you drink enough coffee, I think you can figure that out. People sometimes order a short espresso or a long espresso. What they're asking for that, and if you ever hear this too, this is some little knowledge. If you want to like sound cool and you want to order an Americano or order an espresso differently, you can call it a short or a long. And what people really mean by this is when they say a short for an espresso, you're basically asking us to cut the time of it to be a shorter shot. A long Americano is just a long shot for an Americano. What they're really focusing on is the bitterness of the espresso. So, if heart comes first and the body, crema is the end. That's the bitterness. I want to recommend, usually you should get the bitterness for it because it really creates that overall beautiful profile in an espresso. But if you don't want the bitterness of it, you can ask for a short espresso. And what that does is it actually cuts the espresso before the crema comes. So it's not super bitter. Or if you want a bitter, more bitter, bitey taste of an espresso, you can ask for a long espresso. A lot of people don't ask for that, just so you know. They mostly ask for short espresso shots. So take that as you will. But that's pretty cool. I'm going to talk about that's how you kind of know what is good and everything. It's like to tell the notes and for it to kind of feel your whole mouth out. If it's just really bitter or really acidic, or if it really, it tastes like bad or rancid or anything, that's a bad shot. You can always, and I really recommend this, you can always go back to Barista and be like, hey, can I get another shot? This just tastes a little weird. Please do it nice. We are totally cool if you're nice about it, because sometimes our shots, we pull them and sometimes they're wonky. Every shot is a little bit different, although we try and, perfect the shot making thing. So we're happy to do that. But if you bring it back and you're like, this shot is terrible, please don't do that. Please be kind. But in order for the shot to be good, this is where baristas come in. So let's talk about what baristas do. So baristas, yeah, we make your coffee. Yeah, we give it to you. Yeah, we give you pastries, all that fun jazz. But what you don't see that we do that's really essential is we dial in your coffee. We make sure every day that your coffee tastes good. So if you ever like a piece of coffee, please thank your baristas. Go back to the counter and say, that was really good, because that's all me. That's all us. How being a barista works is this. So for my shop, we were open at 7 a.m. But two openers come in at 6:30 a.m. They unlock the shop, unlock the doors, and they get everything ready. They brew a cup of coffee, they get the espresso bar ready, they bring out the syrups, count the cash register, and they basically all go. Then they dial in. So a barista will dial in, meaning that they will make sure that the espresso shot works for the day. If you didn't know this is very, very cool, but beans kind of have their own mind. So coffee beans are very sensitive to temperature, very, very sensitive to temperature. So, and temperature and like humidity. So coffee in LA tastes a lot different than it does in Washington. It's drier here. It might be tasted different in New York where it's more humid. Because of that, you can't just set a grind to a number and leave it there. Every day you need to fix it. And baristas, we're trained by taste and by also knowledge of ratio and all of that to deliver you a good coffee. And the cool thing when you work as a barista for long enough is you see how the temperature changes the coffee. And let me tell you how this works. So basically we have a grinder. We always want to get 18 grams of espresso grinds into our portafilter, which is that thing that we put into the espresso machine. That will always stay the same. It's always going to be 18 grams, okay? What does change is how the beans are ground. So you know how I was talking about filter coffee and how beans are really coarse and then espresso is really fine? Well, although espresso is finer than that, than filter, there is a range. So when you grind beans fine, think of it as like sand particles. This is how I learned it. Sand particles, like little rocks. The more little rocks that you have together, it's harder for water to get through, right? So it takes longer for water to seep through. Think of that. When you have rocks that are a little bit bigger, not as small, it has a little more pockets of water, areas for water to come through, so water comes through faster. This is very important for taste, because think about this. If the water goes down really, really fast, you're not going to hit all the flavor profiles. The heart is not going to come out as well. The body's just immediately going to come. You're not going to give time for the layers. But if you make it too fine, you're going to risk burning the espresso. Got it? So what we do every day is we grind 18 grams, we weigh it. We weigh 18 grams, like literally weigh it with a spoon. Like it can be like 17.9 or 18.1, but it's really, really close. Then we packed it. So we do this thing called tamping, which you've seen, where we like push it down on the portafilter, and what that does is that's compressing. So we have the ground beans and they're fine, but espresso, we tighten it by putting pressure and gravity into it. It makes it more compact, and what that does is that when water seeps through it, it will stay more on the top and it soaks in all that good bean juice and flavor. Think of a cold brew, like how it just seeps there, right? So we want the water to grab onto that. So we basically tamp it, put it into the portafilter. Well, it's in the portafilter. Then we put it in the machine. We turn it, and so water comes through. When you turn it on, it usually takes 6 seconds. You're gonna learn some good rules of thumbs that I will know. For instance, if a shot is pulling correctly, you're gonna turn it on. You're gonna hear the water go through, but you're not gonna see anything drip down from underneath the portafilter for 6 seconds. Then after 6 seconds, you're gonna see the layers appear. So you're gonna see this little, like this more dense, dark brown heart, and then it's gonna turn into a body, and then it's gonna go to a crema. You want to see all three of those things. That's when a shot looks good. Another thing you're looking at though is time in grams. So think of it, we have it pouring down, right? And then we have this weight, this little scale underneath it that has this little cup shot that's catching the liquid. We want that to be around, there's a range, it's around 27 to 36 grams. So that can change on the day. That's what's going to be kind of changing via temperature. And then we also are looking at the machine, seeing how long the water's running, and we want that also to be around 27 to 36 minutes. That's your goal. So your shot's going to pull, and there are going to be variations. What you do, and this is kind of the fun thing about being a barista, is you'll pour a shot. So just so you know, so we open up, I usually like run the machine, so I'll like push the sliders, let the water fall, let the machine heat up and warm up. I've learned that to do as barista. If you're a barista, do that. It warms the machine up so that your first shot is more accurate. Like, everything's really sensitive. If the machine is cold and you run the coffee, you're not going to get an accurate shot. And because throughout the day the machine warms up, the temperature warms up, and you should kind of be dialing in as you progress through the day. We don't always, but that's what you're kind of supposed to do. And so I turn on the machines, let the water come through, and then I do my first shot. You never drink the first shot that you pour or you pull. It is just a test shot. The reason you don't do that is because the person the night before cleaned the machine with soap and water, and you do not want to drink that. So every type of first shot that you ever pull, dump it immediately. You will drink the second shot that you pull. So you drink that, and you're going to be looking for flavor profiles. Like I was saying, you want a full round taste, and you get to decide if it's too bitter or too sweet. That's where, for instance, if it's running too long over that time frame, right? So this is where math kind of comes in. If it's, turning into 37 seconds for like the actual shot to be good, you're going to want to change the coarseness or the fineness of the bean. So you're going to want to change the, so for instance, if it's too long of a shot for the shot, right? So that means that it's taking too long for the water to go through, and if it's taking too long for the water to pull through, that means that it's too fine, so you're going to make it coarser. Just like if the shot pulls really quick, you're going to make it more fine. So the openers do that. They also taste the filter coffee, and they taste everything. Now, some tips, just so you know, as a coffee drinker, try not to be the first one in the coffee shop. Usually baristas are still dialing in when you come in, so usually the first shots that we give to customers, although we think they're good, I just don't recommend it. The best coffee you're going to get throughout the day is in the middle of the day, because temperature's heated up and we've been dialing in for a bit. Also, this isn't going to happen. I don't want to freak you out, but this doesn't happen. But also, just like, they clean the espresso machine the night before, and then they we're going to be dialing in the day, like the morning, but I don't want you to risk ever having those chemicals in your coffee. It won't happen. I'm not like saying that, but just saying, if you're ever in between like an espresso drink or a filter coffee, I would definitely go with a filter coffee in the morning. And by early morning, I'm literally talking like the first like people that come in. After like 30 minutes or so, you're good. So like if you come an hour after open, don't worry about it. Do whatever you want. But yes, I want to talk about another thing that I absolutely love that I didn't get to talk about in my last coffee video, is steaming milk. This is the coolest thing, because I know, and then this is the reason I love coffee so much, is how to make latte art. I can make latte art. I can make hearts, I can make trees, I can do almost rose or whatever. I really want to do a swan one day. And I'm going to teach you some tricks that I know, that so that if you want to make coffee at home, you can kind of like learn how to do it. So what makes good latte art? A latte art is can only be done basically with steamed milk. And it can be with oat or almond. I'll talk about kind of the difference between those in a sec. But steamed milk itself, to get good latte art, you need to have good steamed milk. There's a wand on a espresso machine that you get a cup of milk and you use the wand. What the wand is doing is it's throwing hot air and water, but like hot air into whatever you're putting in it. So it's aerating it. It's putting air. That's what steamed milk is. Hot air, I believe, or hot water. But there's air in it. There's something there. And what you do is you put the milk up to the wand, and then you push it down, and then it's going to start aerating it. It's kind of hard. you would just think, oh, you just put it into the milk, it aerates it, and you get good milk. That doesn't work, because there's a preciseness on how to get good milk. What you're going to do is you're going to put the wand in the milk, you're going to let it steam, and then you're going to slowly pull the milk down, because there's this line on it. So think of like a wand, and then there's like a little square at the end, and the line above that is like where the air comes out. You want that to live above. There's like a little line. You want to live above the milk when you go in, turn it on, and then you want to lower it into the milk at some point. What that does is you're controlling how much air is going in. So if the wand is a little bit, like that line is a little bit above the milk, it's catching air into it, pulling it through the wand into the milk. When that goes underneath the milk, you're not allowing any more air in. You want air immediately when you start the milk, because for me at least that's what I do, because then you lower it, and then you're gonna tilt the cup so that the milk is turning on itself. So it's going to turn on itself so that it's going to get rid of all the bubbles. So what you want to do is basically you're going to put it up, you're going to have it at a tilt, and you're going to want the milk to be going in circles, and then you're going to want it to kind of go in a diagonal circle so that it goes over the bubbles. There's this thing you can look on YouTube too, but you can also listen to it. So I've done this steamed milk enough that I can like be looking and talking to someone, and I can hear when it's ready. You also use your hand. You'll see that baristas, they're going to be holding it, and then they're going to use their palm to indicate whether it's hot or not, the steamed milk. This is how I indicate it. I hold it, I let the steamed milk go. When it feels hot, I take my hand off, and I wait 2 seconds, and then I turn it off. You're going to think that if it's hot on your hand that the milk is hot, but you kind of give it a few more seconds. That's my tip. For it to be like a nice warm latte. The sound of a milk, it's gonna sound, there's two different sounds. There's gonna be like a scratchy noise, and then also a very like smooth noise. A good milk is, there's not gonna be a lot of noise, but practice, you can look at videos, you'll see there's different noises for different things. If it's too aerated, if there's too much air going into the milk, it's gonna make this weird high screechy noise. If there's not any air, it's also gonna make this weird high pitched screechy noise. They kind of sound the same but not. You check it out. You're gonna make milk. Okay, so that's it. It should look like this glossy paint. That's when you know it's good. And what you do, this is where it's fun. It's like you're making the milk while you're also pouring the shot. You get the shot, you put it in the drink, and you, baristas, we continue to pour the milk around. We spin it. So we'll put it down and we'll spin it. We do that so that it doesn't so it doesn't coagulate. I don't know what the word is, but so that it doesn't so the foam and the milk don't separate. We're keeping them mixed together. That's why you'll see us mix. We'll bounce out some bubbles, and then we'll pour. And this is where latte art gets really fun. So the real trick for latte art, are you ready? Is this gravity. I literally was doing latte art before this job, and then my manager taught me this, and I was like, this is how you do it. Gravity. So you're gonna have your cup, you're gonna hold it at an angle with the espresso already inside, and you are gonna pour high away from the cup. The higher that you pour away from the cup, the equal amounts deep it will go into the espresso. So at first what you're gonna do is you wanna mix the milk with the espresso. That's all you wanna do. Latte art, what it is it's literally just the milk, and then it's just like the white design is just like foam. So you go high until you're like maybe 3/4 of the cup, and then what you're gonna do is you're gonna bring your cup down, your pouring cup down closer to the cup. And if you just do that, you're gonna see the white foam that's on top. Now I'm gonna tell you how to make a design, and this is the increments on how to make it like become a good latte artist. There's one design that you just need to nail, and then you can do any design. Okay, there's just one design that you have to do, and then you can do any design. And that is called a heart. A heart. How do you do a heart? Well, this is what you do. So you get all that, and then when you're pulling it down, you're gonna pour it into the middle of the cup. It's gonna push out a little bit, and then you're gonna pull ahead. So you basically, what do? Oh, this is what I do. So it's like espresso, you know, you're pouring from far away, and then you get your pouring from far away, and then you bring your pouring cup down, and then you also tilt your cup parallel. Oh, this is what you do. Pour your pouring cup down into the middle of the cup, and then pull your other cup parallel. It's gonna pull the foam away from you, and then you're just gonna go forward. So it's literally pour, pull down, bring cup to parallel, and then just pull through. And that makes a heart. You can look it up online. I'm not describing the best, but a heart's really easy to do. It's basically a blob that you go straight through. And then to make a feather or a tree, it's literally the same thing, but instead of just like doing a blob, you are going to shake the milk. So instead of going straight down, you're gonna go straight down and shake and then pull. It's pretty easy. I say easy, but you know, the thing that really matters is the milk. Once you can nail the milk, like you can make the latte art. The reason latte art doesn't look good on coffee sometimes, and I'll tell you, you can be a judge of like how you know what they fucked up for milk. I'll tell you right now, because it's hard. Like there's so many coffees that I can't do latte art because I messed up the milk. Like it takes practice. It's really hard to consistently get, but the way that you can tell for milk is basically if it looks really light, like if it looks too watery, that basically means that they didn't aerate the milk enough. So if the design is like really weak, like you can kind of barely see it, but it just looks really liquidy, that means that the milk is not aerated enough. If it looks too foamy, that means that they added too much air to the milk, which makes it more difficult to make the design. You can tell if it's more aerated because it doesn't look super silky smooth. It kind of looks more foamy. And that's not bad. Some people really like foam. At the end of the day, it's just if your coffee tastes good. But as a barista, it's really fun to make the art because you can kind of like be like, do I give him a heart? Do I give my crush a heart? Do I give him a tree? Do I give him nothing? There's so much stuff to explore. So, yeah. That's some stuff. I'm going to talk a little bit about, I guess, my shifts. So there's usually 4 people that work at a coffee shop. We have 2 openers. Both start at 6:30. Then there's a person called a mid shift that comes at 8:30, and it's them 3 until the first opener leaves at 11:30, and then the second opener leaves at 1:30 when the closer comes in at 1:30. The closer is from 1:30 to 6:30. Coffee shop closes at 6. And the mid shift leaves at 4:30. So that's kind of like, it's staggered. Each person has a different obligation. The first opener, the one that has the shortest shift from 6:30 to 11:30, is in charge of syrups. So they make the vanilla, the lavender, everything in the back. We re-jar everything, we remake it. That's what they do. The second opener is in charge of cold brew. So at noon, they're going to make the cold brew batch in the back. You know, it's 18 hours, and then, you know, the next person makes it, or puts in the fridge. Openers also do that every morning. They put the cold brew in the fridge. A mid shift is going to be in charge of making chais. They make chais, they make yogurt, they make the teas. And then the closer just is in charge of cleaning everything. They clean everything, they mop the floors, they, count the register, they lock up. It's very good. I actually closed today. On the weekend, it's the weekend right now, it's Sunday, I did a long close, so instead of from 1:30 to 6:30, it's 11 to 6:30 because they want coverage. Because if you work more than 5 hours, you get a lunch. If you work more than 5 hours, which is 30 minutes of unpaid labor, and then you also get 10 minutes for every 5 hours or so. So every opener has, the shortest one has 10 minutes, and then, the second longest opener has 10 minutes and a 30-minute break whenever you want, and then whenever you want. And mid shift has 2 10s and a 30, and then the closer has a 10. So that's it for tips. So we get paid hourly, but then we also get tips. That's kind of what server jobs, we really rely on tips. So please, if you're ever getting a coffee, I always do this. I always just tip $1. I think $1 is totally fine per drink. So if you get 2 drinks, tip $2. I do $1 per drink. I don't care about 15% or 20%. I just think $1 is a good tip. It's really nice. It's not too expensive. Always do that. So if you're ever getting a drink at a coffee shop, always just add $1. So if they tell you it's $6.50, just think of it as $7.50 and make sure you add that $1. We live off those tips. We really do. The tips that I get, they go straight to my rent. It's not like it's super extra money, like we rely on it. But what's cool is that our tips come in cash. So how the coffee shop works, it's weird because it worked differently in my old job. We used to get tipped by the hour. Like, well, so you get electronic tips, right, through Ritual or like through credit cards, so people can order online, but also credit cards. That is always split. So that's always split by how many hours you worked, and then they divide that by the total hours of everyone worked and all that, right? At my old job, cash tips used to just be split by people right on the spot. So if I were to leave, I would have looked at the cash tips, I would have split them, and I would have given them to my other partner. Here we actually take all the cash tips and we put them in a safe, and then we also divide that equally between everyone. This is a little secret. Tips kind of go unreported a little bit. It's not always like that, but that's kind of a plus for us. So it's kind of under the table. You didn't hear that from me. But we always get, every Wednesday, we always get cash tips from our managers for the week back. And what's nice about that is that I take the cash and then I put it in a drawer and I don't look at it again until like the end of the month, and then I have all this money that I quote unquote saved, which is really nice. So it's a fun way to save money as well. You kind of like put it away, but that's how. And then we get paid every 2 weeks. I work around 20 hours, or it's like 4 days. I think 4 days, 6-hour shifts. 4 days, 5-hour shifts. That's math. But I'm just gonna tell you some of my pet peeves and some tips. So my tips were: don't come in early and don't come in late. If you're coming at the end of a day shift, just be aware that like we're already cleaning the espresso. Like literally, I'm saying like 15 minutes before close, the espresso machine's probably shut down. Things are limited. Just be aware. The best time for coffee is midday, or it's like an hour after open, hour before close. And then my pet peeves are pour overs with milk. Please don't do a pour over with milk. The reason for a pour over is to taste the coffee. Taste the coffee and then add milk. That's fine, but just taste the coffee first. It's like, what is that thing? It's like eating your food before salting and peppering it. It's literally that. And then the next thing is not tipping. Also, so we have this thing called Ritual. If you're ever placing an online order, please just tip. It's the exact same amount of work for the baristas, and we see if you tip or not. And it's just frustrating when people order like 5 drinks on what's called Ritual or online thing, and they don't tip. Just because you don't see them make it, they make it, and we stare you down. Trust me. But overall, I guess I never talked about caffeine too. Cold brew is the most caffeinated, then it goes like espresso, then the more milk you add, the less caffeinated a drink is. So latte is least caffeinated for the espresso drinks. Black tea is most caffeinated, and a rubus red or herbal is the least caffeinated. Yeah, it's always like tea, and teas are less caffeinated than coffee, so just remember that too. So black tea is less caffeinated than an espresso or a filter or a cold brew. But yeah, I guess that's kind of everything I have. I know this was a really long video. I really, really, really hope that you found some joy in this. I really like talking about this, and I think I got nervous because there's a lot to uncover, and I sometimes feel like I have to compact everything. But hopefully, you enjoyed this, you learned something. A reminder, this is just all my thoughts as a barista. I wanted to inform you on some things, but I also just don't be afraid to ask questions. Stay curious in coffee shops. We love chatting about coffee. Be kind, and the takeaways are, I just want to let you know when the best times to have coffee. Middle of the day, Always tip your baristas. Think of me when you see your next barista. And for the love of God, don't order a pour over and don't add milk to it. Like, seriously. But yeah, have a wonderful night. Let me know if you liked this video. Give it a like, comment. Let us grow. Help us grow by sharing this. And stay safe, my friends. Stay weird. Be you. Be kind to others. And I just hope to see you in my next video. Thanks. Okay.